Back to the channel. This weekend I had quite a lot to rant about. I did a one rant and then it's just been one of those weekends where things are just crazy. So, don't forget to like, leave a comment or subscribe and yeah. Okay. Now, my dear people, I'm going to talk about something that everybody is talking about right now, which is domestic violence. I feel like domestic violence. I'm not going to look at it like it's always the women who are being battered because yesterday I was at an event, a party where we discussed about just how badly some women treat some men. But in this case, so here's a backstory. So there's a musician. She's Nigerian. Most people know her songs, and so she was hit by her husband, and allegedly hit by her husband, and she ended up dead. After he apparently kicked her on the chest, and yeah, she ended up dead. And the main part of the story was the fact that this had been something that was not exactly a secret. People knew. People knew that she was going through domestic violence. She had confided in her church, her pastor. She had confided in quite a number of people about what she was going through. But because of who she was, this was not, she did not really have the option of walking away from this relationship. And the reason why she did not have an option of walking away from the relationship was because she is built up as this woman of virtue, this amazing, basically, she is this person who everybody needs to look up to. And unfortunately, people do not really want to look up to somebody who is a divorcee. Um, so I read some of the comments, and quite a few of the comments were, "Oh, this is just the devil is using this to encourage people to get divorced. If she would have gotten divorced, we would never have had all her songs because we would never have known who she was." And my thing was, the person who wrote that, I'm thinking, you seriously think that's justification? I mean, for you, it's better for somebody to be a dead, somebody to be dead than you know, it's, I think the martyrdom is what annoyed me because they kept making it sound like what she has done it for the cause. She stayed in the marriage no matter how bad it was. And my worry is most of these people who are doing that are people who are also in a position to advise couples who are going to get married and just tell them, yeah. And you know how many husbands or how many wives who are abusive will use that as an example? They'll be like, where are you going? If this and this person could stay in their marriage until death, I'm slapping you one slap and you're on your way out. What's wrong with you? You're not a Christian. There's something wrong with you. You're after divorce. The devil is using you. There's all this that could be said by an abuser to support their abuse. The other thing that quite a lot of people who are on that other side kept bringing up was the fact that, well, a man's ego, a man's ego, a man's ego. And my question is, what man's ego? Why should I have to worry? Why should my safety depend on a man's ego? If a man's ego is so fragile that me making a little bit of extra money than him would threaten him, then why do I need that kind of a relationship? And it's the same way the other way around. If you're with a woman who is extremely domineering, that your success threatens her to the point of her being violent, is that really a woman you want to spend your life with? That's the big question, Anyway, so I mean, for me, I personally think it's ridiculous. I think it's wrong for people to behave like that. I think it's wrong for people to want to have this kind of relationships and stuff like that. I just think it's wrong, basically. Anyway, so aside from that part of the conversation where we are talking about apart from that conversation where we're talking about the people who are in the relationship, my other question is to society, because clearly, apparently, this was something that quite a number of people knew. People in the church knew, all those people knew. When a friend comes and confides in you, because the thing is, when somebody is a victim of domestic violence, someone can beat you, but you still love the person. Someone can really treat you badly, but you still love them. So the other problem with domestic violence is this is somebody who you are intimate with, and this is somebody who you fell in love with, got into a relationship with most of the time. It's not easy to just say, you will always find a reason why they did what they did. Oh, he was just having a bad day. He lost his job recently. This COVID has been hard on everybody. Oh, the prices of petrol are so high that he just slapped me because he couldn't fill his car. You can always find a reason for the person you love, because if you truly love the person, you don't even want to think that you could fall in love with somebody who is a monster, because clearly this is a monster. You don't just go beating a grown human being to death. So you don't want to think that. And every other person's situation is, well, her situation was, she was different. Her husband had always been fishy. He's a drunkard. He drinks. My husband doesn't drink. He just slapped me. He doesn't drink. So this was just a one-time thing. If your friend confides in you, just know, chances are she is not, most of the time, not willing to go all the way. But in so many countries, it's actually allowed for you to be a whistleblower and just go and report it. And I think sometimes subconsciously, because if I'm hit in my house, nobody has to know except the people who are in my house. But for me to confide in someone, I think subconsciously, some people want that help. So they mention it, but then they don't really want the full help. I don't know if that makes sense. They don't want to be very involved. They just want a little bit of help, but not the complete help. So, so that's it. I think in so many countries, find out if the country that you're in, this is a possibility. But in so many countries, you can actually go and just report the person. Chances are it won't go far, because if the person is not willing to testify, in some countries they will drop it. But I feel it can go one of two ways. One, the man or the woman, the abuser might realize that, oh man, this idiot has gone around telling people that I've been hitting her or him. And then you will end up, and then they will be more in danger. The other way would be the person who is the victim would be able to get some kind of help, some kind of counseling, some kind of walking through. And in so many countries, they actually handle it very well. When you go and report, they don't go to arrest the abuser. They first approach the victim and talk to the victim and tell her, okay, listen, your friend came and told us what's going on. Here are ways that you can get help. This is what can happen. This is how it can be done. Let us know if you want us to proceed. Of course, if it reaches a point where they see that this is becoming a continuous thing and the person is not willing to take the next step, then maybe they might have some kind of forced intervention. But don't just sit on that kind of information. And I know there is you get divorced, God hates divorce, but so does murder. I mean, murder made it to the 10 Commandments, divorce didn't. It's what annoys me is the fact that this man, if he gets out of jail, when he's filling a form, the form has, okay, marital status, he will be putting widower. You realize he puts widower and he can just move on and marry somebody else. Why don't they need to add murderer to that so that, yeah, I killed my spouse? Because widower is actually more sympathetic than divorced. When you meet someone who's divorced, many people will go like, you're a divorcee? Oh man, something is wrong with you. But when you say you're, you know, it's, I just think it's wrong. Basically, I feel like there's so many things that we get wrong, and this is one of them. But I, I'm, I'm hoping that there's a generation that's coming up that is able to stand up for themselves. What I'm worried about is there's the older generation who they grew up. Okay, so there's the older generation where domestic violence was kind of an everyday thing. People grew up watching this. Then there's a middle generation who grew up watching their parents going through that, and they decided, no, I am going to break this cycle. And then they broke the cycle. The problem is some people took the cycle to the next level. So now a boy meets a girl. The girl has grown up in a family where she has never witnessed domestic violence, doesn't even know that this thing exists. It exists in Nollywood movies, but it does not exist in reality. To her, no. No man can lay a hand on a woman because she never saw her father lay a hand on her mother. Then the man has grown up in a family where abuse was there. So then they meet, and the man becomes an abuser. Maria will also give an example where the woman is the abuser. So the man becomes an abuser. And the minute the man becomes an abuser, therein comes the problem, because the girl doesn't know how to react. Who do I go to? I can't go to my mom because my mom has no idea that this can happen. And the second thing is she blames herself because my dad never hit my mom. So that means I must have done something to deserve this. This is not something normal. So I must have done something to deserve this. She has no one to turn to and she feels like it's her fault. Then on the other hand, so, it just spirals and spirals and spirals and she has no one to talk to. Now, sometimes you find the other way around where it's the woman who grew up watching abuse in the family and the man grew up in a family where the father protected the mother. And when they grow up, or even both of them grew up in abusive relationships, and the man decides consciously that I'm not going to let my children witness what I witnessed, so I'm never going to hit my wife. But the woman decides, I'm not going to let my children witness what I witnessed, so I am going to be the strong woman and proactively show this man that he cannot hit me. So the woman becomes the abuser because she's thinking, I have to assert and show this man that I am not like my mother who used to be beaten. So, then you have all this, and so we have totally different kind of, and this is not a dating conversation. I don't even think it comes up when you're dating to ask, so what kind of a family were you? But I think when you date and you start maybe meeting the parents of your spouse and you see that they're just so different from your spouse, some of these questions are not so bad to ask. I don't think it's such a bad idea to ask a few questions like, what kind of family did you grow up in? What, things like that. Bring up that conversation. Right now, everybody's talking about the musician who died. So just bring it up and go like, oh, why would somebody do this to somebody they love? I would never do this to you. Watch the person's reaction. That alone already should tell you something. Anyway, I hope that this was a bit educative because I'm all over the place, but it's just my brain. That's how my brain works. I'm sure by now you're used to it. So don't forget to subscribe and we will talk